Well, it is 10 o'clock more or less on Wednesday, and it's time for relaxing painting and sanding and painting and things like that with Dyson Dungeons. So I will be painting today. I will be doing a little bit of sanding, and I might just do that first because, well, as you know, as you've been watching, been finding out that parts have certain flaws on them, like they have little circles that need to be sanded out or filled in. They've got sprue bits attached that have to be taken off. The machine guns ended up taking a lot longer than I thought because there was a mold seam that ran all the way along the top of it that made it look like not good. Yeah. Words. I know words. It made it look like a piece of molded plastic instead of, a molded plastic machine gun. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of parts here. There's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be painted, different colors and some assembly and then some painting. I don't know, maybe I'll waste a little bit of time and tell you what it all is. And I don't have a really good plan for the order in which things are going to be done today. It's just stuff needs to be done. One thing way up here, I'm trying not to mess it up. This is the bottom of the plane, and the bottom of the plane came out pretty well. I think it looks okay. The painting looks all right, except really, there's a spot here that didn't get painted very well. I'm gonna just do that right away. Otherwise, it's coated pretty well. This is the inside of it. And all of these parts, this is a cutaway model. All these parts go in here. There's a fuel tank and machine guns and a very detailed cockpit. This is not cemented in. It is just stuck in, and it sticks. I don't want to break it by pulling it out. But what I do want to do, besides fixing that flaw in the paint, there's always something, is like this is really stuck on here. I mean, it just fits really tightly, but up here in the front, it doesn't, and I don't want that to fall off. So I'm going to put a little bit of cement, I think, without breaking this, a little bit of cement on the inside of this to hold it in place. And maybe I'll just do that right away. And then I'm going to touch that up because it was just the way it was sitting. I didn't turn it around. So I'm hoping that if I put some paint on there, it'll level nicely. These are the parts of the fuel tank. There's going to be like 3 or 4 different colors on this. I'm going to be painting the main tank, this aluminum, but there are these straps that hold it down. That's going to be a darker color, dark aluminum. And then there are bolts that are, holding the straps. And whoever designed this, molded those on. I'm going to just paint those steel so that they're still metallic, but they're a darker color. That's the plan anyway. This is the seat. This gets painted aluminum on the outside and khaki on the inside. I'll be working on that. All these little bits here, anyway. Just dive into them. This one part here, this is the sanding part. Several of these where there's a protrusion on one side like this, including on these up here. Had holes, and those are filled in. I have to sand those down. So I think I'm going to do the cementing first, and then the painting on this. Do the cementing first. I'm going to do the sanding on this next, because this is painted this color. And if I'm going to get this color out, I might as well paint this bit. Right. So, buttons. This is a little bit tricky. in that I need to get, this is a very, the fine point applicator thing, but I need to get the cement in here without it touching anything else. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's, it's like open on the bottom. I'm going to try to get the cement inside of this bit here. If it goes out, it will ooze. I can't see. I can't see if cement is actually going on or not. Well, I'll find out. If it sticks, it's on. If not, then it's not. So I'm just going to hold it for the requisite minute or so. This whole inside of this is going to get washed brown. It's supposed to be wood. It looks very lifeless right now. Okay. But I'm going to wash it brown. I'm going to dilute the wash. It's a ink kind of, it's called a wash. And it's designed to be, to make things look weathered and highlighted like that. And it's already fairly dilute. It's not like a paint. It's translucent. I want it to be even more translucent. So I'm going to actually water it down, literally with water. Why water instead of thinner? Well, two reasons. One is I don't want it to dissolve the paint underneath. I want it to just kind of layer on it. Okay. And I want it to I want it to evaporate slowly, because I found sometimes with this that it evaporates quickly and then it gets sticky on the brush and it doesn't flow like it should. Okay. Cement on it because it's sticking. So I'm going to do the washing on this a little bit later, but I need to first turn seriously. Always, I keep finding, just rotate your work. So I'm going to put some paint across that, and I hope it levels nicely like the rest of it. I'll probably just put a fourth coat on the whole thing just to be sure. But before I do that, I'm going to do the sanding on this bit, so that I can use the same color paint. These parts I'm going to put in the to be painted part. These will go in here. The tape will go away. This piece of cardboard will be set aside. It's set aside. It's thrown aside. Now there's two bits underneath here. There were little holes, and I just covered those with spackle. So that should be. I'll just sand that off with some really fine grained sandpaper. Pretty good. See if I can get it in here. I didn't use the epoxy on this because the holes were rather small. No, I did not have to count them all, but I know how many holes there are. On the bottom of this, there are two. But this is going to be mostly invisible, whereas this other one is going to be highly visible. I'm doing this because I want this model to look really good. You know, A plus kind of stuff. Maybe at least an A minus minimal. Looking for the 800 grit bit. This to sand it down, and then use this to polish it. And then I will clean it, and it will be ready for painting. There are more holes to be filled in on these other little parts after. Those will be kind of a pain to do because they're tiny holes in places that need to be painted as color, well, color boundaries. Gray. They need to be painted gray, not desert yellow. Take a guess. But there's, this is right at the top of a bulkhead, right at the top of a bulkhead where someone's looking down on it, and the first thing they'll see is, oh, look, there's a hole right in the middle of it. I wonder what that's for. And the answer is what it's for is that's where the plastic was injected, I'm thinking, to fill the mold for this bit here. Because every place on these other parts here, every place where there's a extension kind of thing, where there's something bigger than the rest of the lattice, there's a hole on the other side. And of course, those holes are on the outside, so if you're looking at it, they'll be really obvious. They'll say, oh, there's holes there. Great. I wonder what those are for. So I've used this epoxy now method to fill in quite a few things, and it's worked pretty well. It's tedious to sand it, though. And I probably could sand it with a coarser grade sandpaper, I guess. It would go a little faster. This was primed, and you can see the prime is brown underneath. I can tell that the epoxy is at the same level as everything, not just by feeling it, but also by, I wonder if this will go faster, even though it's finer grit. Let's find out. But when it's the same color all the way across. So the epoxy has worked pretty well as a filler because it stays hard and it can be sanded nicely, and then it can be given the same surface texture as the plastic. I'm going to get a little impatient here. Use a slightly bigger grit. There's 600 grit as opposed to 800 or 1500. It might go a little faster. I just have to polish it a little bit more when I'm done. So once this bubble of epoxy is sanded down so that it's level all the way across, then that hole will hopefully be pretty much invisible. Then I'll get out the desert yellow, put another coat on the base of the plane, and then wait for that to dry, and then I'll do the washing on the other side. Wonder how this done there pretty well. And then I'll do the washing on this side, and hopefully it will look wonderful as opposed to just messed up. We'll see. I don't know. There's lots of things to paint today. I've got the fuel tank and all the different colors that go on that. I've got the German gray. These little bits on here are German painted metal. And that's that dark gray. And I've got the machine guns to paint. Hi, Enforcer. Thanks for joining in. Oh, yeah. Stretch. Thank you. Have you made progress on your... you're working on several things. You're working on a bard and you're working on fauna. Which one are you working on now? Enforcer is working on several characters for a D&D game that hopefully they will be playing soon once their DM is ready. Oh, cool. Are you going to be able to get together and meet? Or have you already? So that's really good news. That he's well, because whatever is going on here is going on very slowly. I don't want to tear it up. Oh, okay. So your DM is still in recovery. I really wish him well. Sometimes whatever it was, and you don't have to talk about it, but whatever it was, sometimes recovery is a difficult thing. So both characters on hold. What will you be doing in the meantime? It's getting close to being done, I can tell, but yeah, I'm sanding on either side of it because it's not perfectly flat. But I'm trying to be careful. I don't want to distort the piece. So I've got a lot of painting here today. Just all sorts of little bits and pieces. They're at this point, and they're just, I'll be just sort of randomly going through them. Yep, the longer message came through just fine. No, I mean, if you're playing a game together, why not? Get together in real life. I know that's kind of a common thing actually. Even a member of my family is to overthink things sometimes rather than just, hey, let's just get together as friends, right? You get together and talk about the upcoming game and things like that, and that's just fine. But sometimes it's like you get into, am I being too forward? Am I not being forward enough? It's okay to do that. That's perfectly natural. But sometimes I need to follow my own advice on this. You just dive in and do it. And as long as you don't go out of your way to do something, nasty or rude, it'll be fine. So was the visit good? Did you get together? No, it's not paranoia. It's just it's actually a thing that's pretty common. It's just just mild anxiety, and sometimes this weekend that'll be nice. No, don't. Google is exaggerating the situation. Having a little bit of social anxiety is not a big deal. What is going on here? Why is this? This has got such a weird texture to it. Oh, you know, I wonder. I know you're a long way from where we are, but people here have been feeling kind of gross too. I think I think what we've had several weather fronts move through, and they bring different allergens in, and it's been hard to breathe and feel kind of that way. And I hope you feel better for the weekend and get together with your DM. This has got to be close to being done, but baffled by the reticence of this too. It's like almost there's like a divot or something there. Hmm. Well, that'd be kind of fun to actually have everybody together. You could play a miniature homebrew one shot. Just do a quick role play. Oh yeah, that's okay. It's nice to have somebody in chat. I have a hard time reading the chat screen, even though it's very large print, because it's right on the edge of what I can see without my glasses. But if I put my glasses on, then I can't see what I'm working on. So it's that kind of compromise. But I probably, well, no, it's just, it is what it is. I was thinking of moving the monitor closer, but then I have an even more cluttered work surface, which is cluttered enough. You can see you can see the spot where the hole was that's filled with epoxy, but there's this like halo around it. That just needs to be gone, and it's not going. I don't want to be too aggressive with the sanding. Sure, what's happening here? Okay, I'm not familiar with that. It's moving pretty slowly, huh? If I, you know, I was thinking of putting it down and rubbing it this way, but that just kind of makes a mess. Is it an interesting book anyway? Even though it's moving pretty slowly? No, we're getting somewhere maybe. This is not what I was expecting. I did not expect to have to spend half an hour sanding down this little spot of epoxy. I expected to spend like 10 minutes maybe, but it's raised up a little bit. And the reason there's this halo, this circle around it, okay, is because the epoxy bit is still a little bit high and it's not sanded down to the surface level. You're making enough characters to fill out an entire party. Which one are you actually? If you get your D&D game going, or not your D&D, but your game going with your DM, which character are you going to actually play? Do you think you're going to play a fauna or are you going to play a bard? Have you kind of decided that yet? Or maybe it depends on what the other players do too, doesn't it? To some extent, because you want a balanced group. Get close, but not quite. It's kind of annoying. Can I feel it? Get this for just a little bit while longer, and then I'm going to declare victory. Okay, that's right. I've forgotten. It's a different system. I, I am not all that well versed on anything other than the game that we're playing actually at this point. Well, you can see because of that circular, that kind of eye, it looks like an eye, that it's not quite perfectly level, but I can't feel it anymore. And I just don't, I'm really tired of sanding it. I was tired of it. I'm just not going to do anymore. So I'm just going to polish this. Clean it. It's really weird. The epoxy is perfectly clear, and so it looks like the hole is still there, even though it's not. Knocking stuff over. At least I'm knocking stuff over off screen. Um, get a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. Clean that off. Probably should reprime this, but I don't know. I just don't. If you were to do this, I would recommend taking the time to reprime it. But I'm not sure I'm going to because everything's moving along so slowly here. Okay, what I'm going to do next then figure out where I put this. There is I'm going to get out the dark gray, and what needs to be painted dark gray are these braces. These are metallic braces on here that just holds the piece together. Okay. And these, it's these little square things, which are those are brackets to hold pieces of the control surface of the plane. Yeah, I know. Seeing thing. Well, I can sort of see them because I use the head magnifier. There's more on this one, so I'm going to put the head magnifier on and get that gray paint out and get the little bitty brush and paint these bits. And then it looks like, while it's drying, I'm going to have to clip onto like this, to hold it up and put it back in this holder thing. I can take the machine guns out and put those here. I'm going to try to do something. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off or not, to make the machine guns look pretty decent, but I'll talk about that when I get around to it. Well, and I've got a pile of alligator clips here, and I only need 3, and I don't need this until then. And, well, I'm cluttering my work surface. I should be just putting things away, getting them out of the way, but I'm not doing that. Obviously, I'm failing at that. I'm finding that working against a white surface like this it works pretty well for me. I don't know. I was looking for this. It was right in front of me, and it wasn't where it should be. It was where I just conveniently left it last time I used it. Yeah, here's the paint. Tube that goes over the tip of the brush. I'm gonna have to buy another one of these. This is starting to wear out again. And I didn't charge this, so I hope that the light stays on long enough. A little supplemental light in the front really makes a big difference in terms of being able to see what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm going to paint this gray before I paint the yellow. Okay, I want to touch up the bottom of the plane. But in thinking about it, it's not. And I need to paint that desert yellow color as well. Oh my. Okay, that's what I'll do. I'm just thinking about how to hold them while I'm painting. So when I paint this gray, it almost certainly is going to, in a few spots, require touching up with the desert yellow. So go back to that color after I'm done with this. No, my hand isn't steady this morning. What's up with that? It's like I'm getting old or something. Am I on camera? Yeah, okay. I should move this down a little bit. Thanks for joining in. Maybe you'll pop back in a little bit later. I appreciate you joining in today. Good luck finding coffee. Dog's barking. You can never hear it because it's filtered out. He's a very good watchdog. Protects us from. Yeah, that was that. One of those things where it went just a little bit too far. I'm going to go into silent mode here as I attempt to get the paint exactly where I want it. Which is always a maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't kind of situation. And then it starts to dry a little bit right on the tip of the bristles. The other parts are even smaller than this. I don't know how that's going to go. We'll see. Paint. I can really only paint in one direction. So I have to keep rotating the work surface. Instead of reaching with the paint, I have to rotate the work surface so that I can put the paint where I want it. So when I'm eventually able to talk again, when I'm not trying to get paint on tiny little bits of things, I was talking about the 100 series of jet fighters from the F-100. These were U.S. Air Force planes mainly in the 60s, if I recall correctly. Hundred Super Sabre, which I think came out in the 50s, even like in the mid to late 50s. The successor to the F-86 Sabre. I don't know why it was a Sabre. That was a beautiful plane. Flew with the Thunderbirds for a while. Designed to be like an air superiority fighter, as well as maybe doing some ground support. And then the F-102 Delta Dagger. Delta wing planes were a thing for a while. The British made a bomber with a giant, I think it was the Balkan, the giant Delta wing. They're beautiful planes, but they have huge wing surfaces. And so, there's some upside to that, but then there's a downside too, because big wing surfaces mean, like more drag too. So there was that. But supersonic flight was kind of a new thing then, and the Delta wing worked pretty well at those higher speeds, so that became a thing. It did that. What I remember is that F-102, the development of it with the big Delta wing, had an interesting development story, which I'm going to sort of get right, but not entirely. So I'll sort of tell the story, and then you can follow up if you want to get a little more accurate version of it. But so this put this big wing on this plane, big Delta wing, and put a powerful engine in it and all of that, but it didn't fly very well. And it was like, what's the problem with this? And it's like it didn't go as fast as they thought it should be theoretically and all of that. And they discovered a new rule of aerodynamics to do with ratios of the body surface. So what happened was this big wing was out there, and it just had a typically straight fuselage, the cylinder. It turned out that in order to make it work, it had to be, the ratios needed to stay the same, so that where the wing was large, where the wing presented a large surface area, there had to be a reduction in the fuselage. And so they narrowed the body of the fuselage in proportion to the area of the wing. F-102 ended up with kind of a narrow waist. They called it like a Coke bottle look or something. But anyway, it greatly improved the performance of the plane. And then that same sort of thing just, sort of they needed to pay attention to that with planes in the future. But that was the first time they area proportionate rule or something. That's the thing I can't remember, is the exact name of the rule that the F-102 gave rise to. You could look it up. Look up the F-102 and the rule that it gave rise to that resulted in the narrowing of the fuselage body or the area of the wing, where there was a large area of the wing. But it was that plane was designed to be an interceptor because the fear at the time was Soviet bombers bringing thermonuclear weapons in. So this plane was designed to get up into the air very fast and intercept them and shoot them down before they could deliver their payload. And the Soviets were doing the same thing with their planes. But that's what the F-102 was about. In between that was the F-101, which I believe was called a Voodoo. And that was a really interesting plane. It had very forward, angular intakes for its jet engine. It made it look really quite fierce. It seriously did. And I believe that plane was made to be kind of like an all-purpose plane. It wasn't a pure interceptor. It wasn't a pure get up to the attacking bombers as fast and as high as you can. It was made, I think, to be an interceptor, but I think also ground support. I don't remember too much about it. I remember building a model of it. I built a model of just about all of the 100 series planes. Then I'm sure there was an F-103, but I don't know what it was. It must have been something that didn't work. Like it must have been one of those planes that went between the 102 and the 104, but it never went into production. So I'll have to look that up. I'm kind of curious now because they were definitely numbering them sequentially until they got. I haven't gotten to that part of the story yet. The F-104, I've talked about that, the Starfighter. Just an engine with stubby little wings that were so sharp that they needed to have covers on them so that the ground crew didn't hurt themselves by bumping into them. True fact. Okay, well, there. That's not too bad. There's one or two tiny little spots that need some touching up, probably, with the desert yellow, but that's pretty much done. Now I will. Yeah, these are kind of these will be a little bit of a challenge. These are on the wooden frame of the cockpit. And these bits hold different, parts of the, like a trim tab or a throttle lever or something like that. Challenging to paint. Getting that line straight is not easy. dots of paint coming from the other direction, I think. The line is just the slightest bit ragged. It's a little better. These parts I'll show you when I go to the other side. Okay, so this is the side that's on the inside of the cockpit. This is these brackets, these metal brackets are attached to the wooden frame to hold. Got too much paint on there all at once. Yeah, I know you see painting tiny little bits. This is almost like painting minifigs. Just checking to make sure it's surfaces are actually painted. This one up here has got some like little buttons or something on it, so those will have to be painted some other color. Seeing some flaws in the base coat of the brownish yellow. Taking care of those because I painted this with the head magnifiers on just because of that kind of thing. I'm still finding spots where it's just not good. No, that's why I come back and repaint it. Go ahead and paint the buttons. Decide to paint them another color. Just paint it over the at least. Spot here. It's being recalcitrant. It's like there's a little blob of paint or something there that's keeping the line from being just right. I guess that's good. So when I turn this over, we'll see the problem that was created in the molding process. The future challenge that it will be presenting. Yeah, painting these tiny little bits. This is going to take what, like 45 minutes or something? It's taking a long time to paint minuscule surface area. Turn this over. These pieces are here. And for a reason, for no reason at all, there's a hole there. And this is going to be highly visible on the outside. It's a weird, this part is actually kind of weirdly done, both of these, in that the inside, this is the inside of the cockpit, is nicely detailed, okay? Little ridges, where the wood pieces come together and all of that. But on this side, it's like they didn't bother. But this side, which is the outside, is actually going to be more visible when you take the top of the plane off, show the inside detail, than the inside. I don't know. This one doesn't have a hole in it. It's actually bigger than the other one. It doesn't. It does need some desert yellow touch up. Spots that weren't painted the first time around, even. Just, I don't know. It is what it is. Okay. This one also has attachment points. Same sort of thing. And there's holes on the other side that will need to be filled in and repainted once the little bits of things that go there, the things that are attached, then on the outside I'll fill in those holes and paint them. There'll be another one of those things where it's going to be something really tiny that will end up taking like two streaming sessions, three maybe. One is, attaching the things to the inside. And then depending on where in the stream I do that, filling in the hole. And then sanding down the filling in of the hole. And then painting it. And then touching up the edges. Painting wasn't perfect, like here. The gray got a little bit too far onto the yellow. Because there was sort of a bump there. Okay, well, that went too far. Yeah, and that is why I'll be getting out the desert yellow a little bit later to do touching up like on that. Looks like I saved the hardest one for the end here. Just right from one angle and not right from the other. Sorry, up to the F-105 Under Chief, affectionately known as the Thud. It was a fighter bomber. It was designed, and it carried a lot of heavy armaments, bombs, and was used in combat in the Vietnam War. It was ground support, but it was also a fast plane, so it actually could get into aerial combat and kind of hold its own. You know, it's kind of a fascinating plane. It's like kind of the jet equivalent almost of like the P-47 during World War II. The gigantic radial engined fighter bomber. And it's going to require a little bit of touching up around the edges. It's so many contact points. Just just some difficulty getting to them and getting it done right. It's coming along okay. I'd say that there's some touching up to do, of course, but it's not huge. It's not like, so far at least, I haven't like splattered paint all over something where it shouldn't be at all. Many of the boundary lines are actually pretty decent. That need to be corrected shouldn't be terribly hard. I hope. We'll find out. And then I'll probably, grab this and rotate it and see that I missed a spot and have to come back and start over practically. But that's, for me, that's typical of this kind of detail. It's just going back and forth until it's right. these things are always the most challenging, where you've got this, it's supposed to be a piece of metal that's attached to and inserted into the wood, and you don't want the metal color to be on the wood and vice versa. And so getting the boundary line on the paint just right is, for me, challenging. There. And it's probably on the bottom where it can't be seen, but it seemed to have, except for back here. Maybe that, I was doing okay, and then the brush slipped. But there you can see how it's supposed to look, mostly. Mm. Those are, I'll hold it up to the camera in a second. If those are metallic metal pieces, painted metal, they're attached to the wood frame. And then on the back, same sort of issue as before. Well defined. Supposed to be there. And there's holes. I'm painting these now, but I know that after I fill the hole in, a lot of that paint will be sanded off. As I smooth out the filler. For some reason, this little one too. And I can't really fill these in yet because there's something has to be attached. Oh my. Did that get there? It's that's the kind of thing that happens that's mysterious. Is there's like these spots of gray here. It's like I don't have it on my finger. I must have bumped it with the brush coming to or from the surface. I know on the back here, this part I'm painting now, when I fill in that little hole and sand it down, this whole thing will have to be repainted, both brown, the yellow kind of brown, and the gray, because the paint will get sanded off as I smooth out the. Hopefully not too bad. I'll come back with the yellow in a bit. Oh, okay. I need to stretch a little bit here because being hunched over like that. That wasn't fun. Well, I just smashed the brush into the microphone. Okay. Wow, used an hour and a half. And all I've done is I painted little gray bits. But I got up to the F-105, which is where I left off on Monday. I just started with the F-106 Delta Dart. I will start off by saying I'm disappointed with the name. Okay. The F-102 was the Delta Dagger. Dagger, yeah, right? And so the F-106, which was a much more beautiful, more powerful, more effective plane, they actually flew those for a fairly long time, was the Delta Dart. Dink. Just really, would you rather be flying against Soviet bombers, a Dagger or a Dart? But anyway, that's what they named it. I guess Dagger had been used. So I paint the desert yellow. This thing needs to be painted everywhere, and so it needs to be held somehow. There's a piece that goes across this. So I was hoping that I could get a toothpick into one of these little holes here on this side, and that it would actually hold. And maybe I can. I'm not sure. They're really shallow. Try that. If that doesn't work, then I'll go to plan B. Toothpick gets larger, right? And so I'm sanding off the point so that it's flat on the inside and a little bit larger diameter. And maybe actually hold. So I'll be able to paint this. I'm going to need, move on to the desert yellow here. I'm going to need this brush for touching up. This brush for putting, unfortunately, another coat on here because I missed a spot. Okay. And a slightly bigger brush just to get the surface area of this painted. All right. And I'm going to be wearing my head magnifiers for the touching up parts. But I won't need them for the hull for this. This side's okay. So I'm only going to have to paint this, so I'll be able to hold it and move it. Do that first. And then I'll paint this, and then I'll do the touching up because I want the gray paint to dry, before I start overcoating it. Yeah, I guess I'm going to get this done, and then I'll move on. I'll move on to some other parts. I'm not sure. I think I might try the machine. I'm going to mess with the machine guns, I think. Now, it's just a lot of stuff. I'm trying to think about the best order in which to do these things, and the best order in which to do these things would be to paint the band on the ends of the fuel tank first so that could dry, and then I can paint the fuel tank part itself when I have the same paint out to paint the tank, right? I probably could do that before I work on the desert tan color. Yeah, holding this. I could put it on the sticky tack there. I'm going to try. A piece of balsa wood that I broke that needs to be sanded flat. That didn't. I should have cut it. I didn't. I want a flat end. I'll show you why in a second. There. I mean, it's not that hard to do, is it? It's just balsa wood. It's very soft. So the thing is how to hold this. I want to paint this band, the band around the edge here. That's what holds it down. And there's no place to hold it. I could put it on a holder maybe. I could stick it on like this. That would kind of work. Then it's hard to get around, making sure I'm getting that. I may end up doing that anyway, but what I want to try is this should be fun because I'm using fun tack. Yeah, that's fun tack. And there's some more fun tack. We'll see how much fun this really turns out to be. Half as much fun tack as I got. So I'm going to put some fun tack in here. I'm going to stick this in the fun tack. And it is now holding. And then I can just put it on one of the alligator clips and stick it in there. And have fun with the other one here. I'm not even worried about getting the fun tack out of there because it's not in the way of anything. But now I've got too much fun tack, and it is possible, I guess, to have too much fun. I'm going to stop now. I'm not going to do that anymore. I am going to put this back in here because I don't need it. Okay. So these fuel tanks I'm going to paint them aluminum, one of the metallic colors that I've got. It's it's fairly bright. It's not. There's very little black pigment in it. It will be shiny, but I want the band to show, so I'm going to be painting it a darker color. Appropriately called dark aluminum, or since this is from Spain, Europe, it's aluminium. Yeah. And I'm going to use a brush to put the paint on. I'm going to use This is a pretty good brush. I use this brush. Yeah, so I'm doing this first so that paint can dry. And after it's dry, then I can do the regular aluminium. To the end cap of the tank. Remember to always open this cap on these paints with a paper towel because there's a tendency for it to spatter. A bit of this goes a long way. What do I need? Paint the back of this first. Make sure that the back gets painted. And I'm just going to paint the whole rim. Most of this isn't going to show, but if it does, I want it to be painted. The cement for this actually goes on the inside of this rim. Too worried about that. But if by chance there's a little bit of a gap, I want it to look like like it's part of the rim. And I'm painting these all the way down to the bottom and right along the edge of the band here. I'm getting it all over the tank, but that's okay. That's going to be painted another color. So the Delta Dart, unfortunately named, was the successor to the F-102. It was made by the same company. I think it was Convair, which doesn't exist anymore, but they made these beautiful Delta wing planes. So it was like the F-102, but, faster and higher. And the ends of the Delta wings were kind of clipped off. Hard to describe. It didn't come to a point. Now that I put metallic paint on it, what I see is that the band has a mold mark on it. Yes, maybe that can be okay. It's one of those seams, and the seam happened to be weirdly right on the edge of the band that's holding it down, but that might be just how it looks. Okay. It might just be how the band is constructed. Let's see how it is on this one. In a worst case scenario, and you never know, this might be it, I might have to sand that off, which means that the paint that I'm putting on here will be sanded off and then repainted after I sand off the seam that seems to be there, right in the middle of the metal band that is holding this down onto the deck of the plane. And that was, he's pretty much invisible until it was painted this metallic color. Which is why I took so much pain to get it off of the machine guns. Because once they were painted metallic, that seam from the mold would have been really obvious. Well, this was kind of relaxing because I didn't have to be real careful about the edges here. I'm just painting over to make sure that it's covered. When I paint down to them, there will be a different story. It's just right there, right down. Oh, no. That's not a problem. Well, it is kind of a problem and not a problem at the same time. I guess we'll just say that the band is made up of two pieces of metal joined in the middle. I don't know if you can even see it, but you can see that right in the center of the painted area is a line. And that's where the two halves of the mold came together and created that situation. I don't think that will be an issue once it's done, though. At least I'm planning it for it not to be an issue. Yeah, let me put this over where you can see it, so you can see that there are parts. They're just sitting there drying. Yeah, this is the fuel tank. This is the chair. Look at the seat. I have to decide which to paint first. Guess I'll paint the frame first and then the inside. I could actually just do some of that now. Why not? I've got a decent brush. Let's get some parts. More parts. Parts is parts. The outside of this needs to be painted. I'm going to be painting a duraluminum, which is, in terms of darkness, the amount of black pigment in the metallic paint is between aluminium and dark aluminium. And this, you can get it on one of these. I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to make a little point up here. The reason I'm doing that is the paint needs to come all the way down to the bottom. There. This one. After doing this, I am then going to be painting the desert yellow. And then after that, I'm going to work on the machine guns. Yeah, it had been taking a lot of time, and now it's not taking that much time. That's just fine. I'm getting a clutter here. I have to declutter this when I'm done with this part. The difference in tone, I guess I'll call it that, amongst these metallics is pretty subtle, but it's effective. So you can't see it, but there used to be a divot right in the middle of the back here. And I filled it in with epoxy and sanded it down, and it worked really well. It's just, unless you absolutely knew it was there. Okay, I'm painting the right around here. The frame goes around the seat here like that. So I'll be painting up to it with khaki. Khaki is the color of the seat. Seat cushion goes all the way down here. So the edge of the chair of the pilot's seat has the aluminum frame. A little bit of variation in the color, but I think that's fine. Okay, this needs to dry. It's in the way. I'm going to put it someplace where I hopefully can find it again later and won't knock it over way up there. Hopefully, it doesn't look like it because it's all little bits, but things are moving along okay today. I'm not sure. I think on Friday, looking ahead to Friday, what I'll be doing is all these little bits, these little control bits that get painted like 3 or 4 different colors here that go inside the cockpit, which is in the inside of that, and inside these frame pieces that I'm working on. I think I'll be working on those. I'll be cutting them off and sanding them down and cleaning them and just going ahead and painting them. Most of them are painted this dark gray color, just like everything else. Some of them have like shiny shafts, like chrome, maybe even, and black handles. It's 33. Yeah, black tips 68. Oh, that's red. Okay, I'm gonna have to get the red out. Yeah, anyway, it'll be interesting doing that. And it'll be mainly interesting as I attempt to do that without dropping them on the floor and losing them, I guess. And then on the seat, interesting thing on the seat, there's the seat belt here, and that's actually a decal that they suggest putting onto the seat. Okay, but if one moves along through the instructions, there is a sitting down Porco that sits on the seat. Okay, and if I put the decal seat belt on, then this goes on top of it. But the sitting down Porco does have a seat belt. Okay, so I'm not going to put the decal down because I want the sitting down Porco to go in the plane. And then the instrument panel, which I haven't cut out yet, that goes on the front this piece where the toothpick is, the instrument panel goes on there. There's two versions. One has a decal to show all the different controls, the dials and things. And the other one has raised plastic on it that can be painted. So I'm going to actually do both of those and find out which one looks better. I'm going to be painting this little bit, though, the instrument panel, a different color. I want it, like the rest of this is kind of that yellow wood, I guess I'll call it. I want the instrument panel to be like mahogany, so I'm going to be painting it the same as the cart, which was a dark kind of reddish color. So desert yellow, there's different parts. Okay, I'm going to paint this first because I messed that up. So there's going to be 4 coats of paint on this. And then I'm going to paint this, which has the instrument panel on it. And then I'm going to be doing touching up on these other parts that had the dark gray painted. So I'll be using this color for a while. And I don't need this because it comes right out of the bottom. There, and that gets set aside until it dries. I don't know if I'm going to get around to doing the brown wash today. As I get near the end of this stream, which is to say, between 12:15 and 1 o'clock, I don't want to say I lose focus, but I don't want to say it, but I need to. I actually do kind of lose focus. And doing something like washing, which, isn't like the same as doing the detail like on these little bits here, these gray bits, it's just really easy to mess up. And so I'll probably not do that today. Probably not do that. No, it's not probably anymore. I've decided I'm not going to do the washing today. I'm not going to take that chance. I'm going to save that for Friday. It looks like what's going to happen on Friday is that I'll be doing the brown wash on all of these wooden pieces, including the inside of the fuselage, which is all of that. Okay, I'm going to make that try to come alive by using a brown wash on it. And on these little bits, but most of Friday, I do believe is going to be getting out, cleaning up, and starting to paint all those itty-bitty little control things. And if I do them in the right order, and go out of order, okay, and I'm going to do these first, the ones that are inside the cockpit, so that I can attach them to the frame. And once they're attached to the frame, then I can fill in the holes on the outside of the frame so that they can be sanded and painted probably like on Monday. So I'm going to start. Well, we'll see. Depending on how much time there is yet today, I might get those pieces out and prep them. so that I can install them really early on Friday so that the cement can set, so that by the end of the stream, yeah, I'm talking to myself in terms of the order of things. After I'm done with the touching up here, I'm going to get those little parts out so that I can attach them early on the stream on Friday. Some of these other things can wait. There's no particular order in which anything needs to be done, really, until it's all just kind of installed. This brush is not getting clean. So the Delta Dart. The Delta Dart was this beautiful plane. It was when I was in, I don't know, like 5th and 6th grade, something. Before high school, at least, my favorite plane. It was just absolutely beautiful. I built a model of it. I built a model of a lot of things, but I took particular care, the Delta Dart, and actually entered into a hobby show, the 4th of July hobby show at our park. That's kind of a nostalgia thing for me. That we would have churches and social clubs and things march in a parade from right near my house. It started like 4 blocks away and went past all of these churches and social clubs. And as it went past each of them, people joined in on the parade. So this big parade, we went down to the park. There's a little bit where that hole was. It shows just a little bit, but hardly at all. This is probably going to require a second coat. We'll see how it looks when it dries. There should be time to do that if necessary today. Anyway, yeah, so we marched to this park, and it was all great fun. There was I think one of the churches sort of had a band. It wasn't very good, but it played patriotic songs and marches and that kind of thing. And when we got there, we all got ice cream, these little ice cream cups, paper. They were waxed paper ice cream cups with little wooden spoons, wooden paddle spoons. We all had ice cream, and then they had a hobby show there where people could show off their hobby stuff. And I entered my F-106, which I had actually mostly carefully painted. And I won the prize, and the prize was, I don't remember, it was like a plastic fishing rod kind of thing. It was the kind of thing that was scarcely worth the effort of carrying it home seriously. And it wasn't a very good thing, but it was a prize, and I got a ribbon. It was a nice thing. It was probably until I started painting the Fink models, which I started doing shortly after that. It was one of the best models I made, but I loved the F-106. It was, it was just designed as an interceptor. It couldn't get into a dogfight or anything, really. So it wasn't like an air superiority plane. It was attack the bears and the bisons as they came over. kind of plane, but yeah, it was gorgeous. And then I do believe there was an F-107 and an F-108, but actually there must have been a 9 as well, because the F-110, which was a swing wing fighter bomber, yeah, a clear example of how politics plays a significant role in the development of and production of airplanes. I don't know what happened to the 7, 8, and the 9. I'll have to look them up. Sometimes they did like, sometimes it would be like a competition for the next whatever, and one company would do the 7 and one company would do the 8, and one, and the ones that didn't win just disappeared from sight. I think that's probably what happened, but I'd have to look it up. I really don't know. Okay, so this is base coated, and I think, man, okay, I'll use the other brush on it. I think there's like little spots that aren't covered very well, but I need to put my head magnifiers on for the next bit anyway, so I'll double check that one, and if I have to touch some spots up, I'll be doing it with the bitty brush. So it's okay. I don't have to go. Really, I don't have to do that. So the F-110, I think it was nicknamed the Aardvark. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't recall exactly, but they called it the TFX, because at the time, why would they call it the TFX? Because they were looking for support from Texas. And TFX is kind of like Texas, and so it is what they did, really, to try to get congressional support to make this plane happen. It was the first time, I believe. Yeah, it was the swing. Oh, a good thing I'm looking through this. There are, in fact, spots that I just completely missed. So the idea was to have these wings extend out, swing out for takeoff and landing. So it wasn't like the F-104 where it was just, the takeoff and landing speeds had to be so high that, especially taking off when it's heavy and it's carrying all those sorts of bombs and stuff, that you want it to be able to get off the ground. And that's kind of a thing that airplanes are supposed to do. And so this thing was pretty heavy, and for landing, to be able to land at a reasonable speed, but while it was in the air, wanted it to be able to fly efficiently. And the delta kind of wing, like on the F-102 and the F-106, was pretty efficient for high-speed flight. So the wings folded back so that it could go faster, more efficiently. Well, that was a pretty complicated mechanism, and during testing, some of them crashed, and it turned out not to be a very, very good plane at all anyway. But it was the TFX, and it got built, and that was the last of the 100 series, the F-110. and then the numbers went back. And the next one was not an F1, it was an F4. And the F4 turned out to be a shockingly good plane. It was one of the very few planes that was flown by everybody. Because usually the Navy and the Air Force, well, they have different requirements. You know, like the Navy planes needed to land on aircraft carriers and Air Force planes didn't. You know, that kind of thing, right? But the F4 turned out to be pretty good. Maybe not perfect, but pretty good at just about everything. So the Air Force flew it, the Navy flew it, the Marines flew it. It saw a lot of combat in Vietnam. That's about when it came out, during the Vietnam War. And just about everything else, wasn't used anymore. I guess I could just say it like that. I think I can just let these sit. I'm looking for places where the gray got onto the brown where I don't want it. Maybe where the edges are a little ragged. Maybe some spots like this one where there should have been this yellow paint and there wasn't at all. Then by fixing that, I messed it up. I have to come back with the gray paint because the line was just about right, and then I messed it up by touching off the paint, the spot that hadn't been painted. That happens. It's the back and forth iterative process of getting the paint just right. I'll fix that now, actually, though, because that's on the outside. Although this particular piece doesn't need to be painted, this one will be because it's got a hole that needs to be filled in. And so I'll be getting the dark gray paint out to do that anyway. This is where I look all around to see where, like, I bumped the gray paintbrush into a spot where I didn't want it. Anyway, the 100 series was, it was just really actually kind of famous because so many of them were just really outstanding planes at the time, in terms of doing what they were designed to do. These buttons, I'm going to paint those. I'm not sure. I'm almost tempted to paint them red. Like those are things to be flipped. It looks like there's like covers, like those are flip up covers for an electrical outlet or something. It's kind of okay. Let me get this spot here where apparently the brush bumped it. Okay, the all came out okay. Here again, it's like, I can take the time to fix this, but I know I'm going to have to repaint this whole thing again anyway when I fill in that hole. So it's a gray paint all over this. I mean, remember being so careless with the brush. I'm not really understanding quite why there are so many spots like that. This is actually looking better than I thought it would in terms of needing touching up. There aren't that many spots. At least it looks, that I'm kind of satisfied with how it turned out. Hmm. I guess that's a good thing. It's like there, maybe I should touch up a little bit, but on the other hand, it's kind of okay. Yeah, I think this is okay now. At least until I attach those parts and then have to do the back. No, I might come back to it later, and I might not be satisfied, but for now, it looks okay. Well, the last time I used this brush, I very carefully put the little plastic tubes. Yeah, there it is. I had very carefully put the plastic tube someplace where I could find it. This time I didn't, but fortunately I put it someplace where I did find it. Excuse me. Yeah. Hi, Ofala. Nobody has asked me for a flip in like over a week. This is actually a good flipping time. I just finished up some parts that I could set carefully aside, and do a flip here and take these off. Yeah, it's been ages since I flipped anything. This, let's just go all out. Flip between living and not living. This is like a Schrodinger's cat. This is a Schrodinger's cat flipping thing between living and, well, not living. Oops. 1 to 1. Camera. 2, 2 to 2. 3 living. So at least it's at best, at worst, it'll be like tied. No, off camera again. Yep, it's tied. 3 living, and 3 not living. So it will be. It is. It's Schrodinger's chunk of wood, which is either living or not. You can't tell. Um, okay, with these machine guns, the machine gun is supposed to be painted gunmetal. One would That's not a surprise, right? Because there's a gun. But if you look really carefully at it, you can see that there's this radiator around the barrel, and the radiator has these indentations in it, and I wanted those to be darker than the outside. So I'm going to paint the barrel gunmetal, but I want to try to preserve. This is why I painted it steel, this really dark color. I wanted to have those indentations be visible. So what I'm going to try to do, I don't know if I'm going to succeed at this or not, is I'm going to try to dry brush the barrel with the gunmetal paint so that these indentations stay dark. That is, the paint will be on the outside but not on the inside, right? That's what dry brushing is supposed to do. Then I'll hold it on this clip like this so I could put it in the holder thing. And the stock of the gun, the back will be painted gunmetal too, but then I can hold the front. Once it's dry, I can hold it in the front and paint the back. I don't know if this is going to succeed. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know how it's going to go. So I'm going to do my best to make that happen. And if it does, then it'll look pretty good. It'll look pretty good. One thing will definitely happen is that the barrel of the gun, this little bit right here, that will get painted the gunmetal color rather than the darker color. And I might come back and just touch that up with the steel paint later if everything else works okay. I need to get the right brush for doing the dry brushing. What I want is a blunt brush that with fairly stiff bristles. And I think there's one here. I think that's not it. I'm gonna put these other brushes away. There they go. There they are away. Yeah, this is it. It's got short bristles. It's pretty stiff. So if I get paint on the tip of it and just barely any, I should be able to just very lightly touch the gunmetal color across the barrel and do what I'm attempting to do. Okay, just looking ahead, I've got all of these pieces here. Well, yeah, need to be washed with the brown wash, but that's for the future. Really. Hi, Ole. Thanks for joining in. Good time to take a little break and talk about Dice and Dungeons. Oh, no. You got sick on your birthday? Well, happy birthday, baby boy. 50. Ha. That used to be over the hill. I remember my dad going over the hill at 40. We did an over the hill birthday party for him then. Nowadays, I don't count being over the, well, there is no more. I'm just on the downside of the hill. What can I say? But do you get, is it plus one whiz every decade or every 5 years? What would you say? And everybody's got a cold now. My wife has had a cold. I think there's allergies going on. Well, I hope you take enough of whatever your medication you're permitted to have there in Denmark. I know that's hard to get some over-the-counter stuff there compared to here in the States where you can get everything. But I hope that your symptoms are under control enough so that you enjoy your dinner. May I ask what kind of restaurant is it? What's the kind of cuisine that you're getting? Is it like local locally sourced, wonderful stuff? Is it something exotic? Um, I'm waiting for a response. I need a new paper towel. I know where those are because I put them someplace where I can find them. And I will need this for cleaning the brush, for the dry brushing. I will need this for mopping up my nose. Dyson Dungeons is a group of family and friends that runs a Dungeons and Dragons show, and you need to watch it. It's Dice and Dungeons. It streams with a live chat on Sundays at 2, like 3 Sundays a month. It is very amusing, a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it, I'm strongly encouraging you to do that because that's what we are. And this is a spin-off. This is the Mork and Mindy of Happy Days spin-off of Dungeons and Dragons show because I haven't shown these for like a week, a month, a week, a period of time. I haven't shown these for like a period of time. The dungeon tiles that gave rise to relaxing painting. That's it. Knock things. Wow. I put that there so I wouldn't knock it over. Obviously, I already did a flip who, but I will do another one. But I want to show these off because this painting stream started because we print our own dungeon tiles that we use in our Dungeons and Dragons show on the 3D printers and then paint them. And we painted them and then started streaming the painting of the dungeon tiles that we use on our show. And then there weren't any more need for dungeon tiles. There wasn't any more need for dungeon tiles. And so I started building a model, and I built a thing that nobody cared about. And I built a submarine, and Submarine Wednesday became a thing. And now it's just constantly model building. But these are examples of the dungeon tiles. And they have little ball magnets under these things on the bottom, plates at the bottom, so that they hold together and come apart and go back together. And they're really totally cool. And we have wood ones too that we painted, and they have doors that work. And I'm becoming incoherent for a reason. And there are plain floors, and there are round corners, and inside corners, and outside corners, and all sorts of really cool tiles that if you watched our show, you would see them in action as we battle our way through almost not getting, well, my character gets mostly killed a couple of times, but we battle our way through dungeons made up of those dungeon tiles. And I already did a flip for Ofala, but I'll do a flip for Who because Who hasn't joined us now for almost 2 weeks. I did living and not living for Ofala, and it came up 50-50. So we don't know. There's a 50-50 chance of being living or not living. I'm going to do paint or not paint. Paint or not paint for Who. Paint, not paint. Didn't fall all the way to the floor. 2 paints all the way to the floor. Yep. I'm picking stuff up off the floor. So it's 2-to-1 paint, right? 2-to-2. 3 paints. Tied again. Huh. Probability works. So in this last bit here, I'm going to try the dry brushing on the gun barrels. We'll see if that works or not. And then I'm going to do something risky. And I'm going to this is dry enough. I can take this off. These are dry enough. I should probably be able to take those off. Then I will have a choice after I do this and maybe succeed and maybe fail. I'm not sure. in making the gun barrels look awesome. If it fails, well, it just does. Nothing really lost. They'll still look. They'll look okay. They'll look pretty good. They won't look amazing, but they'll look. They'll look pretty good. Um, then I'll either. No, I'm not going to. I was thinking about getting the little bitty bits, the little control things. I mean, they're tiny little pieces. I was thinking of actually getting those out here, like cutting them off the sprue and maybe doing some sanding on them. I don't know. I'll see. The reason I'm hesitant, I mean, it's not like it's technically really difficult, but the reason I'm hesitant is that at this late stage of the stream, that's when I start dropping things. And if I drop those parts, and I mean, it would be pretty disastrous, really, if it fell on the floor and I couldn't find them. Okay, so what I'm doing here is trying to dry brush this paint on it. And it's like, that magnifier is on. Your phone is glowing? Oh, like one call after the other? Well, people wishing you a happy birthday? What I was asking, well, it was what kind of restaurant you were going to go to, whether you're going to, some sort of exotic kind of thing or a locally sourced gourmet. Um, just kind of wondering what kind of thing, what are you treating yourself to? That looks okay. To paint the ends here. What I was trying to do, and I think I succeeded at the door. Thanks for dropping in. Maybe we'll see you on Friday. Is that I was trying to dry brush the gunmetal on here and still show the dark indentations of the radiator. And it looks like it came out okay. I'll do the other one now. Satisfied with how that came out. So after that dries, then I'll paint the back end of this, the gunmetal color, and then need to decide whether to repaint the barrel of the gun, the darker color or not. But I'm okay with how that came out. It might dry. It might dry fast enough that I can actually finish those today and get them ready for detailing and maybe some wash on it on, on Friday. I actually got a fair amount of stuff done today. Let me just show you. I repainted the bottom of this so that there isn't a bad spot on it now, and that's ready to get washed. I got the all the metal parts of this on both sides and this painted. So these are ready to be washed. And so what needs to be done is get the brown washout for this, and the inside of this on Friday. I'm not going to wash these yet because the control things need to be attached to the insides of these. And once those are attached, then I need to fill in the holes on the back and repaint the backs. And then I'll wash those. I don't know. Maybe I'll do some of those. I've got the fuel tank ready to go. That's ready to be painted. Both the tank itself, the cylinder part, and the ends. Put it on. What am I doing here? Yeah, put it on camera. And those are going to be painted aluminum. And then I'm going to do some detail on just the little points of the bands here where the bolts are. I'm going to wait on that because when I paint the aluminum, some of it will get onto the band, and then I'll have to retouch the band until the edges are just the way I want them. What should I be doing next, though? Okay, I am going to do this. It's a little bit risky, but just to help move this along, I'm going to get the little bits out. I'm going to get the little bits out and start shaping them. The the danger here, the little danger, there is some danger, is that I will drop them and lose them. And get them. Yeah, I probably should prime them. I actually should. Um, these are the ones that go on here first. I need 36. That's the wheel. Two parts here. What I don't know, okay, is I don't know what the attachment points are like on these, because they're attached to the sprue, but they also have tabs and points. I think I broke one, which is a thing I shouldn't be doing. I'm going to put the parts in this little container. This I know needs to be it's attached to the sprue in two places. And I need to sand down the sprue attachments. I know that for sure. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe cut them all off when it's pretty clear which parts are which just by their shape. So I'm not having too worried about the numbers. This is like a trim tab wheel. Okay. Not lost yet. See, okay, wow. These are just really tiny. Look at that. It's like some of the submarine parts in terms of just how tiny they are. You know, those itty bitty things, these tiny little itty bitty things, three different colors. There's a little black knob on the end and a metallic shaft in between and a dark gray on the bottom. Yep. And that's the kind of detail that this model has. So I'm looking at these two parts go onto these things. Okay, they're the other side of the holes that need to be filled in. But these are really detailed too. Like one of these, see, this has this lever on it. Okay, that I'm gonna paint multiple colors. The frame is that it's supposed to be painted that dark gray. Okay, but I want that lever to be detailed, which means that I'm going to paint the shaft of it silver and then the knob of it black. And then this moves as well. That's good. The attachment point's on the back. That's a good thing. Yeah, these are going to take a long time to paint. So I might as well get them going now because the prep and the painting is going to be to the size of the parts. What is this thing? The number on it, 15? I'm just wondering where it goes. That's pretty obvious. 37. So that's this. B12s. I don't know where that one goes. I'm talking about this thing here. I hate to take it off and then, don't, and then not know what to do with it. I was flipping. I'm sorry. I don't know where that goes. I don't know what that's about. There it is. Right there at the very end. Oh, it's a gun sight. Okay. That's interesting. It goes here. I'm going to leave that. It goes on the very, very top of the canopy and actually on the top of the fuselage and actually into the canopy. There's a little slot there, and it is the gun sight that you aim along. It's the rod that. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. That's also a part that could end up getting lost. So what I'm going to do something with that maybe it'll make sense later. But let me get these other bits off. I'm carefully sawing these off, and then I will very carefully be filing that down. These are tiny little fragile parts. Just wow, they are. And I want to make sure that I'm not cutting off the attachment point, which I won't know what it is really until I test fit them. Okay, and then this is the control panel, and I said there were two versions of this. There are. One is just flat. We get it on camera. One is just flat like this, and a decal is attached to it. And then the other one has the instruments really nicely embossed on it, and those are to be painted on. And if I can do that, if I can pull that off, it will look way better than not. Okay. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try to paint the instrument panel. And I might as well take these off this sprue as well because they need to be filed and sanded and then started. I am probably just going to wash these before I paint them rather than trying to prime them because it's just going to be really hard to do that. Say wash them, I just mean clean them off. Okay. All of the parts on here, B being, I think, brown, all the parts from this, there's red ones and black ones. This part here comes on later, but rather than leave it on here and maybe lose it somehow, I'm going to actually cut this off and save this part in a little container. For use later in the model building process. Big enough not to lose. That's the gun sight. That's a cool part. This is not trash. I want to save it in here. So I guess I'll just cut it off here so it will fit. Oh my, I'm just changing my mind. I'm going to put these parts in here. Wow. Look at them. They're really itty bitty. There is so much opportunity to lose these. So here, let me take this piece of paper towel, put it in here, put this in, fold it over, try to remember that that's there. Remind me later that, yeah, this is getting to the point in the stream, where things start getting a little bit raggedy, right? Okay, I'm going to get at that. This is thoroughly covered here. I'm actually going to pull these out with tweezers. These two little levers here that are going to be a painting challenge because the bottoms are painted gray. You can look at the instructions, right? The bottoms are painted gray. The center parts are painted silver, and the tiny little bits on the top, the knobs are painted black. Nice, huh? This is this one. It's also, multi-painted multi-colors. Hopefully they'll stay there. This is like a control thing there. This is this bit here. These three parts are the parts that go in there. And the control panels, well, these just represent a whole different level of complexity. It's either a decal or highly detailed painting of the control panel. We'll see how that goes. These are later. I'm going to try to clean these up so that I can, it's either that. No, I'm not going to try it. I'm going to put these parts are the ones that need to go first on Friday. I'm going to do that when I'm sort of fresh, right? And I'm not going to throw those on the floor. I'm going to put this on. So if it gets knocked over, the parts might rattle around, but they won't get lost. Just no, don't take chances with things that could be a real problem. Take chances with things that will be not a real problem. What I'm going to do instead is finish painting the guns. Okay. This is ready to be washed later. I'm just going to leave it on the toothpick because that's how it's going to be held. So that's a good way to break it. There. These need to just be covered up. This is going to be painted silver. These guys can just stay on here. I don't like them poking up like this. It's just too easy for something to bump into them. but I want to put a nice clean paper towel over the tops of those. Here, I'm going to turn these over, clip onto the barrel carefully. I'll scratch it, and then paint the rest of it gunmetal. And then I can finish these on Friday. There's little bits of detail on there. There's like some little knobs and things that I'm just going to paint a slightly different color so that they show. I'm just going to cover these up now, including it fell off the toothpick, so I'll just lay it down and reassemble it with the toothpick Friday. Oh, yes. I was doing a bunch of talking to myself and figuring out what I'm going to do when, and cutting off these tiny little pieces that need to be carefully painted, multiple colors stuck on there. And one would think that would be the end of it, but no, that's almost just the beginning of it, because the next step is to fill in the holes behind them and sand that down and paint it. And then those parts can be brown washed. Using out a little bit of gunmetal paint here. Underneath, so you can kind of see it. This is hopefully just pretty straightforward. Color of paint on it, making sure that it's adequately covered on all surfaces, including the bottom, just in case that becomes visible. Yeah, let's not forget the very back. Let us not forget the parts that show that. Yeah, there. This gunmetal color with a little blue, gray blue before in it. It actually looks pretty good. It tones the shininess of it down just a little bit and gives it a little blue color, which looks pretty decent. So these little bits here and here and here, I think I'm going to paint them probably like steel, so that they're a little darker, so that they show a little better. I want to see how they look after they're washed, though. That might be all it needs. I might paint them before I wash it. I'm not sure. What I do know is that even though there's a little bit of time left, what should I do? I am going to use that little bit of time. Why not? I mean, what can go wrong, right? I'm gonna paint this. at least the first coat. This is the cylinder of the fuel tank, and I need to be able to hold it somehow. So I'm going to do that. I think this will work. I have to do it kind of gently because I don't want to split the seams. I don't want to break it open. But I think that if I wad up some paper towel, I can get it to go in there and hold it pretty firmly. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm painting it aluminum. I'm going to use this big brush because I want the whole thing to be like this, and I know it will need more than one coat just based on my experience with these colors before. It will look better with multiple coats. This is going to be an easy thing to do. It will be less easy painting these because I have to get the edge just right than the end caps. But this will be doing some painting here while it's still not 1 o'clock. Ooh, I forgot all about this guy. How did that turn out? Yeah, the seat back looks okay. It's a little bit weird, and then, well, yeah, not bad. Needs to be painted khaki on the inside, the cushion part. I don't want to forget that. I'll leave that. I almost forgot it, but I'll leave that there for some more relaxing painting on Friday. Friday is going to be some very not relaxing sanding down these itsy bitsy little bits and test fitting them. That's going to be not relaxing. I'm going to move that tray, the one that's up there holding the parts that are finished, which is hardly anything at all, and work inside the tray as much as I can so that if I drop something or if it pops, there's a good chance it will land in the tray and not get lost on the floor. This particular paint, the aluminum, doesn't have very much black in it, not too much of the pigment. And so it's blocked up. Nice. Great. Now it's splooshed all over the place. So what I'm going to try to do is get it nice and uniform all the way around. I mean, it's making it look metallic, but it will look better with 2 coats. So I'll be putting another coat of this on Friday. I'll probably, that's the filler. Okay, that's the place where the fuel is pumped into the tank. I will probably paint that a darker color, maybe even red, like a dark red color. So that's pretty clear that that's the filler cap. Now, this one thing I do have to say is that you can barely see where the seam was. And if you know where to look, you can barely see where the seam was, which is cool because I worked pretty hard to get rid of the seam on the cylinder. Okay. This is just going to Kind of weird, but I want it to fit into the hole there. So there it is. Friday, then I'll be prepping the little bits that go into the framework for the canopy. Okay, these 3 bits here. I'll be prepping those so that I can paint them and attach them. And I need to attach them so that I can fill in the holes on the other side. Given that these will be painted multiple colors to bring out the highlight of the, to highlight the detail that was built into them. And also that there's no place to hold them while they're being painted. So one side will get painted and then the next. Given that, it may take the entire stream before it's done while I paint it and then wait for it to dry and then paint it and then touch it up and then paint it again before I can actually attach these, which means that I won't be able to fill in the holes until the cement sets, which is now I'm looking at Monday, right? So it's not that each of these will take a lot of time. It's that they require multiple paints, multiple painting in order to look good. And I want to get that done before I attach them. So we'll just see. This is where I'm going to start on Monday because other things depend on these getting done. I'll be working on the fuel tank. Okay. Painting the ends. That'll be time consuming because I have to get the edges right. There'll be multiple coats. Then I have to touch up the retaining band because I'll get the aluminum paint on the dark aluminum almost for certain. I have to remember to paint the seat. The machine guns will be done. I'll actually be able to those should be dry enough. I can actually take them off the clips and put them under the done thing here. So just all sorts of little fiddly stuff. And then depending on how these go and what the timing's like in between, okay, I need to brown wash this. I need to get that done. So while I'm waiting for paint to dry, I'll probably work on putting the brown wash on here to make it look a little bit more like wood and less like just painted plastic. So that's the plan for Friday, is to start with these, to get them sanded down, to get one side painted, probably the outside, because that's the part that's painted dark gray regardless. Maybe do some test fitting. I should do that. Make sure that they fit before I get too far along. So I'll do some test fitting, then some painting, then flipping them over, doing some painting, then doing some detail with the paint drying in between. And while I'm waiting for the paint to be drying on those, I'll be working on the fuel tank, the seat, and washing the inside of the fuselage. And then depending on how the paint is drying and how things are going, I'll also be test fitting all these little bits and starting to paint them. It'll be inefficient. I'm going to be like dark gray and then something else, and then dark gray again, and then something else, and then dark gray, and then silver, but having to touch up the dark gray, it's going to be that kind of back and forth kind of thing. It'll be inefficient. The 2 things I'm most concerned about, because I have to be concerned, is dropping the little bits and losing them, and washing this and having it end up looking terrible, and then wanting to have to redo it. And I don't want to do that. The fuel tank will be, it'll just be that kind of thing. Whenever painting against, one boundary between one color and the other, there's always the opportunity for it to not look good, but especially doing multiple coats like I need to on the fuel tank, we'll see. Yeah. And then eventually this whole thing will get done. Okay. And that would mean that the interior of the plane can be assembled. And when it's assembled, it's supposed to look like this. You can see that this was washed. Okay. You can see the dark areas here, different areas there. So then, assembly will eventually happen. And then that whole thing will be finished and set aside until near the end. And then I'll start working on the engine and the engine compartment and parts of the plane. And it'll start looking like an airplane. Yep, there you can see there's a line drawing of what the interior is supposed to look like. And at the very, very end, once all of this is nicely painted and it looks gorgeous, including the little canopy lines and stuff, that sets on the top of this so that it will come off so you can see the interior detail and then put it back on so it looks like an airplane. One of the things that will end up taking a long time is the control panel. I'm going to be attempting to paint the detail of the control panel so I don't have to relegate myself to just using a decal. I'm going to do the decal thing anyway because I don't know. I don't know how it'll turn out, but the painted control panel will look a whole lot better than the decal one. I will not be putting the seatbelt decal on the seat because the sitting down Porco Rosso sits in the seat and he is wearing a seatbelt. That would be painted on. Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that I'll be doing on Friday, just starting with these bits here and doing multiple, paint on one side, paint on the other side, paint some detail in, touch up where the detail didn't quite work, doing some test fitting at appropriate times, cementing them in place, and then depending on how well that sets, filling in the holes on the outside so that those can be sanded down and painted. Using the brown wash on the inside here and on, well, not these bits because, they'll have to be waiting, but on this bit and this bit, working on the fuel tank, working on the seat, just a whole bunch of little stuff again. But just to just to show you something, I'm going to show you something. There's parts. There's parts that are getting closer and closer all the time to being finished. These are these. These, I'm just going to play around with a little bit of detail. Yep, so the radiator part came out darker than the rest. I guess that's okay because it's a different kind of metal. You can see, yeah, it didn't turn out quite how I was hoping, but it looks okay. I'm just going to touch up some of these little detail bits here with a darker color and then wash the stocks. Probably paint the barrel. Yeah, I might just leave the barrel the way it is. It looks okay, I think. Yeah, but I'll play around with some of the detail on the stocks of the guns here. I'll just leave this upside down, make sure that the paint is fully dry, thoroughly dry. What's this? Yeah, you can see a second coat would make it look better. And I probably could put a second coat on now, but I am not going to mess with it. Let's let that sit. Thanks for watching. I'll be back on Friday right about 10 o'clock and doing the stuff that I talked about doing. And gradually, especially these little bits, sooner or later, this will actually end up looking sort of like this. And then I can start working on the airplane part. But I don't want to underestimate how much time it's going to take to get all these little fiddly bits painted correctly and attached. Could end up spending like 6 hours painting the instrument panel. Just never quite know how that's going to go. So there, parts is parts. That was what I did today. Yeah, made some progress. I think it's looking okay. And I'll see you on Friday and continue to make slow but steady progress. Steady, I guess. Making slow progress on putting together the Savoia S.21. Be sure to watch our Dungeons and Dragons show. Catch it on YouTube if you can't watch it with a live chat on Sundays. Listen to it as a podcast. Become a follower. Become a subscriber on YouTube. And if you want, you can go to patreon.com/diceanddungeons and become a patron and get all sorts of really cool stuff. See you Friday.